The landing ramp struck the red dirt with a heavy metallic thud. Dust swirled around the Kathari vanguard as Commander Vile stepped out, his plasma rifle resting lightly against his armored hip. He expected silence. He expected carnage. He did not expect the truth. Kneeling in the trench line just 50 yards away, shoulder to shoulder with the soft-skinned Terran colonists, were Kathari laborers, his own people. The very caste bred for obedience and toil now trained stolen military rifles on Vile's face. For 10,000 years, the Orion Ascendancy had lived by 3 unbreakable rules. Destiny encoded in DNA, roles fixed, commanders to think, warriors to strike, laborers to serve. The system was flawless. Then the Terrans arrived. Quietly, they engaged in a standard border skirmish against the Galactic Empire. Predictable, unremarkable. They secured their borders, expanded slightly, and nobody paid much attention. The Kathari High Command responded with a swift territorial invasion to correct the borders, a 3-day operation. Standard protocols were issued. Keep laborer worlds safe while the warriors cleared the dirt. But the communications went dark. Millions of workers vanished from orbital sensors. Now, standing in the stinging wind of the contested colony, Vile watched a Kathari laborer, one who lacked the adrenal glands for aggression, flinch as a warning shot cracked overhead. But the laborer did not flee. A Terran infantryman beside him placed a firm hand on the laborer's scaled shoulder. Just a touch. A grounding. Vile felt a cold knot tighten in his secondary stomachs. The laborer exhaled, steadied the rifle against his collarbone, and fired. Precision. Lethal. Seamless. They blended ascendancy tactics with Terran unpredictability. Plasma bolts scorched the air. Vile dropped to one knee behind a transport strut, mind fracturing as he tried to process the battlefield's impossible geometry. It wasn't stolen weapons that paralyzed the Kathari. It was the Terrans' gaze, the way they saw the laborers, not as tools, not as assets, but as equals. A Terran medic sprinted across open ground, diving into the dirt to drag a wounded Kathari behind cover, pressing bare, fragile hands against bleeding scales, shouting words Vile could not translate. In a universe defined by rigid purpose, adaptability is the apex predator. The Ascendancy had just walked into its jaws. Vile survived extraction, but the war ended the moment his boots left that red dirt. Standing in the sterile light of high command chambers, he watched intelligence audits scroll endlessly across glass displays. Analysts stared, mandibles clicking in disturbed, erratic rhythms. Humans had no fixed caste. A Terran could haul cargo, calibrate a hyperdrive, and fire a kinetic rifle, all in the same solar cycle. Biological anarchy. Aggressively, radically adaptable. The Ascendancy High Command did the only thing they could compute. They halted. You cannot fight an ideological virus with orbital strikes. A long, agonizing stretch of peace settled over the sector. But the Terrans didn't sit behind borders. Merchant ships, civilian freighters, and cultural ambassadors poured into neighboring systems. They docked at Kathari supply stations and Velik refueling depots. They brought grain, crude machine parts, and loud, chaotic music. They sat on cold metal floors with alien laborers, sharing rations, exchanging stories of a world where a worker could choose to be a leader. Conquest did not require war. It required the threat of lasting peace. The Xerian hegemony, the oldest and most brutal military bloc in the quadrant, panicked. High Command declared war on Terran systems, mobilizing 1 billion genetically engineered warriors. The orbital docks trembled under the weight of armored soldiers and plasma cannons. But when the command to fire on Terran cultural hubs came, the transmission met silence. On the bridge of the Xerian flagship, the Prime Commander watched his vanguard hesitate. Worlds where they had traded, spoken with Terran engineers, learned the alien concept of personal choice. Slowly, the lead warrior lowered his weapon. The battalion followed. The thud of armor hitting the deck echoed through the ship. They refused the command. The contagion was total. It didn't take centuries. It took less than a single generation. Terran sociocultural frameworks bled through the sector, systematically overriding ancient structures. Millions of laborers walked away. Commanders broadcast orders into empty halls. The Ascendancy didn't burn. It surrendered, slipping into a permanent, unbreakable era under Terran cultural dominance. Years later, Vile retired his armor. He bought a patch of land near a Terran Kathari colony. He watched the humans, the soft-skinned, unpredictable creatures who had broken the universe simply by existing. He watched a human child hand fruit to a Kathari once bred only to carry heavy loads. And finally, Vile understood. The Terrans hadn't defeated the Ascendancy. Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.